At this time, I'd like to invite Sam Davis. Please come forward for a few remarks, and then I will make a few announcements after that.
Thanks a lot, Father. It's going to be easy to follow that. I had a difficult time in thinking about what I was going to say. I usually am in a position where I'm trying to urge people to do something or persuade people to do something. But all the people in this room already know that Ted Solomon was a good man. So it made it more difficult for me to think about what could I say. The preach didn't make it any easier. My wife said to me, pray about this. And then I thought what my Uncle Theodore used to say to both TJ and myself, pray. God loves to hear from strangers. Ted Solomon was the 9th of 12 children. He had 6 sisters and 2 brothers before him and 2 brothers after him. And if you look at his life, sterilely, it's an ordinary life. He grew up in Republic, Pennsylvania. He worked hard, went to school, went to war, came back, married a wonderful woman, raised a fabulous family, built a business, lived a good life, and went on to his final reward. But he had a passion for doing good, for wanting to do good, for being a good person. He had an obsession for doing the right thing, and it was, in fact, a magnificent obsession. His parents came from Orthodox villages in the mountains above the valley of the Nazarene, not far from the city of Homs. And he appreciated the wisdom that his father taught him. He thought that his mother was a kind person. And he had a plan for life. He had a plan on how we should live our lives. And he delivered that plan every day of his life. He thought of life as a wonder. He was really the lion in the jungle, but a benevolent lion. He wanted to look out for all of us and lead by example. And he did that. He did that. 3 principles were, and he would love this room. He would look at this as an opportunity. I wonder if I can get $1 from every person in here for this church. 3 things were important to him. 3 principles were extremely important to him. Work. That was his 3rd principle, work. Work hard, work every day. He got up running. If anyone had been around him, he would get up out of bed and he's running all day long. Work. But work not to just get and spend. Charitable works were important to him. Charitable works, charity was important to him. Giving to others, giving of his time. This church, and I don't want to overstate this, but this church probably would not be here without Ted Solomon. Now, there are certainly others who were involved, but whatever the cost of this church would have normally been, I would imagine that the builder took about 75% and then thanked Theodore for doing that. There are children today alive because of what he gave to St. Jude's Hospital. And he did that on a regular basis. Charity was extremely important to him. There are people in Syria today who have running water in their homes, and they have indoor plumbing because of Ted Solomon. And there are many of us here, his nephews and nieces, who were comforted when our parents passed or were ill because he was with us. 5 o'clock in the morning, he came to my home with my brother Jim and his wife and my wife, and we took my mother to the hospital for a heart operation. And the doctor came out after it was over, and the doctor was giving us a lot of technical information, and I'm listening. And he said, "Hey, Doc, is she going to be all right?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, I have to go." Got in the plane, went back to Charlotte. Work was important to him. He enjoyed work. Family was the next part of his philosophy. And you would think that a man like Ted Solomon from that era, born in the 20s, grew up in the 30s, went to war in the 40s, that he would be the head of his household. He wrote a lot of books, and his last one, The Wisdom of Solomon, he dedicates to my Aunt Madeline, to his wife. And he doesn't say, "This is my wife," he says, "This is my partner. I dedicate this to my partner, the love of his life, the mother of his children, and his grandchildren." So family was important. Somewhere between combat and copy machines, he forged a personal relationship with God, and that was the most important part of his life. His relationship with God. He wasn't ashamed of it, though he wasn't evangelizing constantly, but he let you know what he believed, and he told you what he thought, and he was proud of that, and he was proud of what his family had accomplished. And he hoped that in some way he helped them along. He had a magnificent obsession. He was a magnificent man. There was a book written in 1934 called Death Takes a Holiday. And in that book, Death is trying to understand why man is so fearful and why man cannot accept death. So death becomes personified and takes on a human form. It was later turned into a movie in 1998 called Meet Joe Black. And Death is Brad Pitt, and the hero is a successful man who reminds me so much of my Uncle Theodore, a businessman who loved life, loved his wife and his family and his business, and had things to do. So Death comes down and says, "It's time." But there's a negotiation. There's a negotiation. Because Bill needed to get some things straight. Make sure his business was going to go forward, and it will. That his wife was fine and his children were good, and they are. And the last scene is where Joe Black is walking up some steps. And Bill is walking along with him. And Bill says to Death, he said, it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave. And now Death has fallen in love with life. So as they get to the top, Bill says to, and he had this little, I can't imagine Uncle Theodore having any fear, but realistically we all have some concerns, even good people, God-fearing people. He turns to Joe Black and he says, should I be afraid? And Joe Black says to him, no, Bill, not a man like you. So, should he be afraid? Not a man like you.